Welcome. Today we're going to jump right in and unpack the core ideas from Pastor John Codiel's Stars and Sands. It's a really fascinating look at faith, prophecy, and what it even means to live with an eternal perspective. All right, let's start right here, because what's so cool is that the entire book's framework is built on this one single powerful promise made to Abraham. Yeah, it's about multiplication for sure, but it's the imagery, the stars and the sand that really unlocks everything. So here's the core metaphor that frames the entire journey. We're called as stars, but we're shaped like sand. So what does that actually mean? Well, think about it. Stars, they're God's direct creation, put in the heavens. That's our divine calling. But sand is totally different. It's the result of a long, gritty process of refinement. And that is what symbolizes our journey here on Earth. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into this promise. If we, as believers, are meant to be shaped like sand, then what are the forces that are actually, doing the shaping? And you know, what's really fascinating is how the book explains this transformation. It's not just random. It points to two very specific, very symbolic elements that are responsible for this entire process. And boom, here they are. This slide just lays out the two core components perfectly. The believer's life is described as being rock-based and spirit-led. So you've got Christ as the rock, that unshakable foundation that we're broken off from and refined from. And then you have the Holy Spirit as the water, the living, active force that does the shaping and the purifying. All right, so let's take this idea of being formed, of being shaped, and see how it connects to something huge, one of the central doctrines in the book, the true nature of salvation. And it's presented not as a single moment, but as this complete ongoing process. Right, so here's a really key takeaway. Salvation isn't just a one-and-done deal that happened in the past. It's a dynamic, living reality that unfolds across three different tenses. It has happened, it is happening right now, and it will happen. And this table just makes it crystal clear. In the past, you have justification that frees a believer from the guilt of sin. Right now, in the present, you have sanctification, that's our whole sand-making process, which frees us from the power of sin. And then in the future, we have glorification, which will free us from the very presence of sin itself. Okay, so this whole personal journey, this shaping of the sand, it doesn't happen in a bubble. The book argues that it connects to something much, much bigger, a cosmic, prophetic timeline. The idea is to not just look inward at your own growth, but to look outward and understand where we are in this larger story. So the book makes this point that certain events in history aren't just, history. They're what's called typologies. They're like patterns or maybe even blueprints that repeat themselves and act as signs or warnings for us today. I mean, take this timeline, for example. It points to a pattern that Luke 17 talks about. In the days of Noah and in the days of Lot, people were just, living their lives, eating, drinking, buying, selling, totally unaware, right up until the moment judgment arrived. And the source uses this as a direct warning against being similarly complacent today. The text also draws this really sharp contrast between the two advents of the Messiah. The first time, he came as the humble Prince of Peace, the sacrificial lamb. But the second time, he's prophesied to return as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, a victorious king and a judge. Two very different roles. Okay, so we've talked about the promise, the process, and the prophecy. So what? What does any of this actually mean for how someone lives their life right here, right now? And that's the whole point, really. The book argues this isn't just some high-level, abstract theology. It's meant to hit home. It basically asks, if you truly believe this whole story, how can it not completely change the way you live your life? And it boils down to some really concrete actions, It means consciously shifting your focus away from all the temporary stuff to what's eternal. It's about investing in things that have heavenly value. It calls for a life of discipline, of endurance, of seeing your own life as a living sacrifice to God. And that really brings us right to the heart of it, to the final provocative question the Source leaves us with. It turns this entire explanation, from the stars and the sand to the prophetic signs, into a deeply personal moment of reflection. It's not just about understanding the concepts, but about letting them transform you. So if you really lived like this was all true, what would change for you today?